Oh, what a start. And remember, up at Providence,
Raggi straight away. Whoa! Uh-oh, you better get a timeout, Jay Wright. Reversal, Raggi again.
Boy, talk about coverage.
And here come the Blue Jays. It looks spry today. Raggi again.
Boy, you better identify. I mean, you know Jay went over this scouting report. It's unbelievable. The distance, the accuracy, and they find the open guy. So unselfish.
Right. Now McDermott on the post with James Bell. Draws a double. Raggi again. Yeah.
You just can't leave him. The coaching is incredible.
Inside. Sealed his man.
Look at that.
Raggi again for three.
What a joke. I mean, it's absolutely comical.
Welcome back to the lineup here on Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection. Tom and I just laughing in the background of that video. A terrific video from Gus Johnson and Bill Raftery. The duo of them doing Big East basketball is awesome.
Yeah, no, they're great together because they're both very animated. They're both very, you have Bill laughing every time they hit a three. Gus Johnson obviously might have the greatest call in sports. The greatest. Oh, Raggi again. Yeah. But no, that was an impressive display of shooting, though.
Raggi on the night, I should say, 9 of 14 from downtown. The only field goals he took was from three-point land. And he made...
So he only made one after the first, 5 minutes?
Right, but, I mean, still 27 points.
Yeah, whew.
That's impressive.
Very impressive.
McDermott put up 23 and made 5 threes himself. 21 of 35 was Creighton from deep.
Oh, man. That's insane.
You talk about a team, again, if they get hot in the tournament, it's over.
Absolutely.
And that, even, again, playing against a big, more aggressive, such as a Michigan State kind of team, like St. Louis did last year, just bringing up a mid-major kind of a team. Again, Creighton now in the Big East, so they're not really a mid-major anymore. But if Creighton gets up against a tougher, much more bigger basketball team, they could still potentially win that game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they have arguably the best player in the country, in Doug McDermott. The guy is unbelievable. Step outside, take it down low, do whatever he's got to do to score the ball. But, if you double him, Creighton's got 4 shooters around him. So double at your own risk. Watching that video, Nova doubled McDermott twice, and 2 times he found Raggi, and 2 threes were the result. So, there's, like you said, this Creighton team, if they catch fire from outside, watch out because they can beat anybody in the country, it feels like.
And, again, looking at Creighton right now, 16-3, 6-1 in the Big East Conference. They were handed a loss by Providence a couple weeks ago, but all of a sudden they're heating right back up and blowing up Villanova on the road by 38 points is something not a lot of teams can say. In fact, no one has beaten Nova on the road until Creighton did it on Monday night.
Yeah, no, and Villanova's been a very, very good team. We talked about them last week. There's a surprising win against Kansas, and they just sort of built on that. Obviously, the tough loss against Syracuse when they were up big and ended up getting outscored big there to end the game. But this Creighton team's for real. And looking at this Big East, Xavier, people were wondering if they were going to have a down year, but they're 5-1 in the Big East, 15-4 overall. They're a very solid team. We saw them come and handle the Blue Demons pretty easily here in Chicago on Monday. Looking at Providence, people have been talking about them for a while to turn around and have a good season, have a competitive season in the Big East, and looks like they're going to do it. I think it's interesting. Marquette was the early season Big East favorite over Creighton, over Villanova. And looking at Marquette, they're 3-3 right now and 11-8 in overall. So they're having their struggles, and Georgetown as well, 11-7 overall and 3-4 the conference. So it's very interesting. These new teams, two of the new teams of the Big East are in the 2 of the top 3 spots.
Yeah, and again, great point there, Tom. A lot of parity right now here in the Big East Conference, starting with Creighton. You look at Xavier, too, a team that could definitely step into the tournament. Not just a mid-major kind of team, but they made a run before in the tournament looking like Jordan Crawford.
Right, yeah. I think they made 3 Elite Eights the past couple years. So, no, the Xavier team's used to winning, like Butler. Like, you can't really consider these teams, VCU you can't really consider mid-majors anymore because they're in the tournament and they're used to winning,
Looking at Kansas, too, right now as we jump out of the Big East Conference. Again, we have our show and for Rock the Clock, as we'll talk about that later on Saturday. So we're not going to talk too much about DePaul as they play Seton Hall Saturday. We'll talk about that more on our Saturday show. But again, as I just mentioned, Saturday, DePaul playing Seton Hall at 5 o'clock our time, 6 o'clock Eastern time, I believe. And we look at Kansas right now making a move up here in the AP Top 25. 14-4 right now. They just beat Baylor. They're going to keep moving up. Play at TCU. They play Iowa State here, coming up here next Wednesday. So that's going to be a big game for them as they just beat them on the road.
Right, yeah, I was going to say, look at their last 5 wins. Oklahoma's third in the Big 12. They beat them. They beat Kansas State, which was ranked 25th at the time. Gave Iowa State their first loss, which was in Ames, which we mentioned was almost impossible to do. They handled Oklahoma State, which is a top 10 team. Obviously, Marcus Smart, a tremendous player. And then they beat Baylor, another ranked team. This Kansas team is rolling right now. I would not want to play them if I was any team in the country, right?
And you think about some people saying, oh, you're making your move too early here in January. Maybe you want to do it in February right before your conference tournament starts, and then you make your run in March. But Kansas needed to make a move, especially started the turn they were going on, and all of a sudden Andrew Wiggins is playing some really good basketball. Yeah. Looking at his stats these past couple games, again, last Saturday, 22-5 against K-State, 17-19 against Iowa last Monday. So again, these are a couple weeks ago. 3-2 against Oklahoma State this past Saturday, but still they pulled out the 2-point victory. That just shows how balanced Kansas is.
Right.
And then 17-7 in the win over Baylor this past Monday.
Right. No, I was watching that Oklahoma State game, and you mentioned the balance because look at Wiggins. He only had to take 5 shots. Didn't even take any free throws, so they didn't need him at all. It's really obviously Embiid getting talk as the number 1 pick. He's been tremendous. Is it Ellis, I think, is their point guard. He's another tremendous player. But Bill Self's got a lot of talent down there in Kansas, and he's getting the most out of him right now. And, you mentioned Wiggins has been playing, really turned it around. I think that's sort of turned this Kansas team around. They struggled to find their footing, and Wiggins struggled to find his footing. But as soon as he started playing better, the entire team started playing better.
Now looking at a team like Michigan, and we talk about the Big Ten, and we talked about it with Chris Emma, again, of Scout.com. Looking at Michigan right now, they've won all of their Big Ten Conference games. They're 6-0 in the Big Ten Conference. Break up the Wolverines. Looking at them, they just beat Iowa yesterday night. They play at Purdue next Thursday. They play Michigan State Saturday. So it's a big rivalry game coming up here on ESPN, Michigan and Michigan State here. All of a sudden, Michigan, you talk about a team that, again, faced Arizona. They lost. They kind of blew that game. People were saying this Michigan team isn't going to do anything. They're definitely playing some great Big Ten basketball.
Well, it's like they awoken the sleeping giant. Chris, like you said, Chris Emma mentioned people were writing off Michigan when Mitch McGary went down. You mentioned they had Arizona beaten, and they let him back. They let him off the hook. But yeah, no, they've won all their conference games so far. They've won
6 conference games.
8 games in a row overall, including their conference since that Arizona loss. And this is not a team you want to play right now. And you mentioned they're playing Purdue coming up, playing Michigan State, and I think that is going to be a true test of where this Michigan team is. If it's back to where their lofty preseason expectations, or are they somewhere in between? And it's going to be a really good game, and it's in East Lansing. So
win that basketball game, all of a sudden your team changes. I mean, you've won 6 Big Ten games, all of your Big Ten Conference games, so there isn't much to say about Michigan. You can't discredit them, but you go into East Lansing, as Tom just mentioned, and you beat Michigan State. There's still a culture change in your locker room just because you can beat that good of a team on the road.
Right, absolutely. And, I'm looking at their losses right now. Iowa State in Ames turned out to be a fine loss. Obviously,
Arizona?
Arizona, Duke. But obviously that Charleston loss is gonna be what hurts them. Or is it Charlotte? Let me check what they're.
I believe it's Charlotte.
Charlotte, yeah. It looks like they played them in a tournament. Charlotte 49ers. Yeah, so really no bad losses other than that Charlotte loss. That's why I don't understand why this team is getting slept on.
And now they're making a push, and if they beat Michigan State again, they won't be getting slept on anymore.
Not at all.
Looking at one of their big-time players, sophomore Nick Stauskas, 18.5 points per game. He's shooting lights out. Maybe not percentage-wise. He is shooting lights out.
For a three-point shooter, yeah, he is.
Yeah, 44% from deep, 50% from the field as well if you round up those averages.
Everyone knows he can shoot. And what's amazing is he's averaging 18.5 points per game, and everyone knows he can shoot. Still shooting 44%. We mentioned Mitch McGary was out for a little, so this was the guy. This guy and Glenn Robinson were supposed to be the guy. He's only averaging 6 three-point attempts a game, which means, in fact, he's only averaging 10 field goals attempts a game. So to average 18 points, that's very efficient.
Great field goal percentage.
Very efficient scoring.
Tom, as we talk about it, again, the AP polls, with Duke making a push here as well. They've won their past 3 ball games. Jabari Parker playing some good basketball.
We have 18 rebounds the other night.
Yeah, 18 rebounds. Jabari's been a beast down low too. We look at Kansas having Wiggins and now a projected number 1 player off the bench right now. Actually starting, excuse me, sorry. Joel Embiid, I believe I'm pronouncing that right.
Embiid might be.
Right. Tough pronunciation.
It is,
right
yeah.
there.
You could be right, yeah.
And again, he's a freshman player, a lot of raw talent, but he's averaging 11 and 7 on the season. A big man. You look at him, you look at Wiggins and Jabari Parker. If you are a GM at this point, let's say the draft is tomorrow, who are you drafting number 1 overall?
I mean, that's it depends on the team's need.
Let's say everything's open. I know this is a very general question, but who would you draft?
I think I'm taking Wiggins. I don't believe in taking a raw center, number 1 overall. If the he's only averaging 11 and 7, like you said, probably loaded talent, probably gonna have a great NBA career. But with the number 1 pick, I need to see more than that. Jabari Parker and Wiggins, I think, are very neck and neck. But I just think Wiggins gives me a little more than Parker does, all around. Parker is better, I think, in the scoring department, better in the defensive department, maybe a little. But Wiggins all around just gives me more, and I think that's why I'd take him number 1.
Mentioning the big man stat, again, you were talking about you don't take a big man overall, Greg Oden-esque, a couple other big men that we're taking.
Yeah, but then Dwight Howard was a great pick.
Nerlens Noel, too. That's just the one I was going to bring up before, if you want to continue on.
Yeah, no. You go with Nerlens Noel. I think was a smart pick on the Sixers because he'd fallen from number 1 overall all the way to 6 or 7, and I think at that point you got to grab him up.
Right, that's what I was saying. He was going to go number 1 overall, and then he dropped, which is good for Philadelphia. But if he had that's why the Cavs. But again, they drafted Anthony Bennett, so there you go with that.
I would like an explanation for that. Don't you wonder what went through their heads? We're like, yeah, this is a great pick.
This is, again, even, drafting about Macklemore would be better than this.
I mean, not saying you had to reach for MCW or Oladipo you could have defended that. But
MCW would have been a good pick.
Yeah, but everybody
trade him maybe.
But everybody in the top 5 thought he was going to be a bust. So I didn't even like the pick, but the guy's been unbelievable. But yeah, just Anthony Bennett, such a head scratcher.
That's true. We're going to take a break here, and we hope you enjoyed that college basketball talk. And again, a lot of discussion being going on here with the number 1 pick, and it's going to continue on here as the projections for March Madness heats up. We're going to talk about the hot stove coming on next, and again, a couple players still being signed here: Tanaka and Garza, and Grant Balfour, who again that contract he signed with the Orioles was terminated.
Right, voided because of the failed physical. But who did you just sign with? The Rays?
The Rays, yeah. And again, a tweet here before we take a break that I saw earlier, and I retweeted this. It was Chris Cotello of MLB Insider, and again of SB Nation as well. He said the Rays say they will make a significant baseball-related announcement today. And I'm thinking, this is going to be David Price, a trade, or something of the sort, and then it's Grant Balfour.
I mean, could be a solid pick. I mean, he's been a solid pitcher everywhere he's went, but obviously the Orioles saw something that scared them, so something to think about.
But the Rays obviously like their hometown guy.
Absolutely.
And we'll get into that, and the rest of the hot stove moves next here on the lineup on Radio DePaul. Chicago's